GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is sponsored by our store through Amazon. If you visit shopgear.com, please remember to do that, because when you do, you provide gasoline to the engine known as Gear Radio Network, and that helps this podcast continue. It is the best way to shop for yourself, and is the best way to support this podcast. Now, on with the show.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
I believe it's a big challenge for all building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
Well, we're here. That's pretty much all we've got right now going for us. You know, the Buffalo Bills doing the damn thing again, both on the field and off the field. This is Trust the Podcast number 10. I am your sick host, Ryan Wolf at WolfBLTD. Apologize in advance for the voice. I've been fighting a cold, nasty cold, on and off all week, and this is the off portion of the cold, and it's not good. But we're working through it. Working through another wonderful Bills game against the Saints, as well as some, I guess now not so breaking news, but it's Wednesday night, and the Bills announced a big news story on Wednesday afternoon. We'll get right into that, but first off, want to bring in my co-host Del Reed at Del Reed on Twitter. Without jumping too far into it, Del, I know today was kind of a crazy day, but have you been able to calm down and take a breath and kind of think about what's happening right now in Buffalo Bills land?
It was so weird. Okay, so I'm sitting in my office this morning, and I mean, this isn't quite where were you, like the Kennedy assassination or something like that. But what I was doing at the moment, I heard that Tyrod Taylor was being benched. I almost never listened to the press conferences live as they happen. You would think I would, given the fact that I kind of have the ability to do so. I don't have any, boss breathing down my neck, being blessed enough to own my own business and all that jazz. But I never seem to. But today, the WGRZ tweet crossed my timeline on TweetDeck just as I was about to start labeling a few shirts in the office. I said, click here for a live feed of McDermott's press conference. I don't know if they do that every week or not. I don't think they had any inside info. But I was like, all right, fine. Okay, Internet. I'll watch something live or listen to it. So I clicked it, started playing it, went over to work on on the shirts, and I'm listening, and there's a lot of mumbling back and forth because they set up the feed long before he ever takes the podium. He comes to the podium, he reads off about 17 names in terms of players who are participating, not participating, limited, blah blah blah. And then he just goes right into, and I want to announce that this Sunday Nathan Peterman will be starting for the team at quarterback. And nobody was in the office at this point. And I yelled, holy crap! And I left the heat press down, and I almost ruined a shirt through that whole thing. Because I ran over to the computer just because I guess maybe I didn't believe it. I actually had to see him saying words on the screen. But so that's my little story. I almost ruined a shirt. But I guess it's not the most exciting story in retrospect now that I've said it out loud.
It's a good story.
It's a story. I don't know if it's a good
story. I was
at
work, and I checked my cell phone real fast, and I just checked Twitter real quick when I get a second, and I saw that people were talking about Nathan Peterman, because you don't call him Nate, you call him Nathan. They just saw someone say,
sorry, I just totally interrupted you there.
Okay.
I guess he likes to be called Nathan, but his Twitter handle is Nate Peterman. Come on, man, work with us.
It's like Mitch Trubisky, when everyone's like, yeah, Mitch Trubisky this. He's like, it's actually Mitchell. It's like, I understand, but come on, bro. Like, come on. But anyways, I saw the tweet.
Mitchell doesn't work as well as Mitchell-Palooza.
Exactly. I looked at my phone and I was just like, I can't believe this. So I went and was like scrolling through my Buffalo list, and all of a sudden it just blew up, and I was like, oh damn. I mean, originally kind of breaking the fourth wall here, we were just going to jokingly talk about it because obviously people on WGR, not so much the host, but the listeners, North Tonowanda's finest, they want Nathan Peterman in at quarterback. And, I guess they put a lot of stock in the preseason, and they were a big fan of what happened. I mean, on Sunday, he ended up coming in for Tyrod Taylor, most of us thought to keep Tyrod Taylor healthy for, the upcoming playoff run that's still happening. And he goes 7 for 10 in his first NFL regular season appearance, 79 yards and a touchdown. Not bad. I mean, it was garbage time. The defense wasn't pressing too hard. Sean McDermott came out on Monday and said flat out, hey, and I quote here, Tyrod's our starter. That's what I said yesterday on Sunday. I know what Tyrod's done. I also know what Nate's done. Tyrod is our starter. And then apparently 24 hours passes, 40, and we get to Wednesday. 48 hours passes at that point. And he says, quote, Tyrod was our starter both when you asked me that question on Sunday and on Monday. I made the decision yesterday morning being Tuesday. And for me, I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised. I know McDermott and Bean made the decision to bring Tyrod back in the offseason, but Nathan Peterman he's a new regime guy. And at this point, the move does reek of desperation to me. I mean, obviously the writing's on the wall. You know the ceiling that you have with Tyrod Taylor. You know how far he can take you and what he can do. I don't necessarily think benching him after your defense has their worst performance of the season and gets their spot completely blown up. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it here in a few minutes. Tyrod Taylor had a terrible game and looked just horrible, but it's less of what Tyrod Taylor was doing and more of what the Saints were doing. They coached it to the point where Tyrod Taylor had to do something he's not good at doing, and it showed. So, I mean, putting Nathan Peterman in against Los Angeles, and while Los Angeles isn't a great team, they have some very good defensive players. And if the Buffalo Bills offensive line is as shaky as it's been most of the season, Nathan Peterman is gonna get introduced to quite a few times to that defensive line and the defensive ends of the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think they may have been looking for. It's like almost I relate it to, and I know I'm kind of going off here, Dylan. I apologize, but I feel it's more like when you have a girlfriend that you're looking to break up with, and you're just waiting for a reason. And it's not like, it's nothing big. It's like, you forgot to say goodnight to me or something, and it's like, really, that's the reason why. It's not the fact that it wasn't the right fit or whatever. It's the fact that Tyrod Taylor couldn't outscore the New Orleans Saints. The game was 47-10. I don't think we've mentioned that yet, but whatever the reason may be, it doesn't seem like it's a good one. But I guess now you've made your bet, because if you go back to Tyrod now, you're risking losing that locker room. I mean, if you already haven't risked losing that locker room, but what are your immediate thoughts, Del, on this? I mean, really shocking move that we caught this week.
I think I have a multi-point response here. One, I'm really disappointed in myself for not taking the opportunity this morning to make a Rick James joke in reference to how McDermott said one thing on Monday and then today he says a different thing. As you were going over that, it reminded me of, listen, I never did things just to do them. I mean, come on, what is that? Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on Eddie's couch. I don't know if you're familiar with that skit or not, but that seems like an exact representation of kind of what happened. And I get it. Like, I'm not giving McDermott a hard time really about that, because that's coach speak. And listen, his job is to win football games. And the only reason that any NFL coach even holds press conferences and takes questions is because they're contractually obligated, because the NFL is first and foremost for entertainment, and the news media wants to talk about the things that the coach does, on game day. So he has to talk to them. So unless he's 100% sold that Nathan Peterman is going to be the quarterback, which he says he didn't decide until yesterday after he slept on it Monday night, then he's going to just toe his own line. Like he did on Monday, because as soon as he says, "Well, I have to reevaluate," that's the same. I mean, then there's blood in the water, right? Once he says something like that, and then say on Tuesday he weighs his options and he decides to go with Tyrod after all, he's already said, "Well, I don't know, maybe." So then he's already sowing those seeds that he's got to answer for, the whole rest of the season, basically. So I get that. Anyways,
the one thing, Del, too, that I'm pointing out, because I'm just reading Twitter as we're going through here to kind of catch up on what happened today, because it really did happen so fast. I wouldn't necessarily say the response from Tyrod Taylor is completely shocking, but when they're asking him about what he feels and what he thinks on the decision, I mean, he just says, talk to Coach McDermott, and it's definitely, it's not a good look. I mean, and you saw a lot of the offense was behind Tyrod Taylor, and it's just unbelievable how the whole thing doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like in terms of what Tyrod's response, it's like think about anytime you've ever had something go sour at work, or maybe even like, say your girlfriend dumps you, and all of a sudden now imagine having to speak to the media about it, and you're trying to be gracious, and you know they're going to hang on every word you say. Like I thought it was, he manned up, and
I'm just here so
he went to the podium. And he took he did, but he manned up, and he answered the things he best he could. But I made a joke because at that point in the office, it was myself and the staff and everything, and we were playing that over the speakers, and I said, "Holy cow! I hope that they bring McDermott right out after this because he's got a lot of things to answer to." when 75% of the responses were, "Ask Coach." All right, well, bring Coach in here. We have a lot of questions, but I get it. But I think he handled it graciously. That's tough, man. If you're in his position, that sucks. It sucks. He's bummed. He's pissed off. He's all those different feelings.
And I mean, we know what he can and can't do, but it's just tough because it's almost like he already had one foot in his own grave and he just nailed the coffin every time he did something bad.
Yeah, well, he was. I've got a lot of. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through everything tonight, or if I'm going to even be able to articulate all my thoughts on this because a lot of them they're still formulating. But anytime you have a quarterback, or anytime let me say it this way: anytime you lose a game, and the post-game press conference from the other team echoes over and over again with, "Well, our job was to make him to be a quarterback." When they're talking about your starting quarterback, that's not a good look. I mean, there's something there, right? Especially after, when he's in his third year as a starter. I mean, there's something to be said for that. And yes, the defense played terrible. McDermott can't bench 11 dudes on the defense because I believe it was a complete team effort in that debacle on Sunday, and just like it was a team effort the Thursday prior. So one thing he can do to try and light a spark in his offense is change the quarterback. And I mean, anybody who's defending Tyrod at this point, I think it's more of a cult of personality thing than anything else. Because if you're watching the games, I'm not here to beat up on Tyrod. The guy's got a lot of talent, and I think that in the right scheme, I think it's a very important point, especially in reference to the 2017 Bills. But in the right scheme, I think he can do a lot of things, for an NFL team. But if you look at the way he's had to perform, or he's performed this year, he's not been that great. I mean, and even over the past 3 years, we've got a quarterback where if I thought hard enough right now, I could probably recall every 300-yard game. I don't think it would be that hard. So, I mean, yeah, they got the crap kicked out of them last week, or this past Sunday, and then they got the crap kicked out of them the week before. Yes, the defense got run over, but part of that, and it's not when your offense is going 3 and out over and over and over again. I think I saw today I saw a bunch of different stats today. Holy cow, so many stats I'd never even read about Tyrod Taylor until today. I didn't know they kept some of the stats that I read today. But he's 32nd or 25th or something. He's in a very low tier in terms of 3 and outs. When he's heading up the offense like that, you can't do that. And let's be, if we can spend a second, we're gonna If you're listening, sorry, we're all over the place tonight. At least I am. But if you go back to, this past Sunday's game, holy cow, the play calling was horrendous. But I'll be the first to say I haven't watched the all 22 from this week. I don't know enough in terms of, but it sure felt like there were opportunities for him to throw the ball. There must have been. The amount of time he was holding on to the football this whole season is just so frustrating. And then when you bring in the rookie, and yes, I heard it said on WGR today, I don't know if it was Shope or Bulldog or Sal or somebody said, hey, at this point they were just trading yards for time, so I don't think it was technically a prevent defense he was playing against, Nathan Peterman, that is. But you look at that quick release, and if my face looked like an emoji, it'd be the one that has the heart eyes. Just to see him getting the ball out so quickly, and that's part of the scheme thing, where this offensive scheme is set up for the timing patterns of the release, and he's got that down. He did that at Pitt. And it was said in a lot of ways he may have been the most pro-ready quarterback in the NFL draft, not because of necessarily talent, but just because of experience in college based on the offense that Pitt ran. But okay, so I'm all over the place here. Let me take a step back, and I apologize, everybody. Tyrod did nothing to save himself these past 2 weeks, maybe even weeks prior, in terms of performance. I made a joke during Twitter during the game on Twitter that Kelvin Benjamin's 6'5", not 7'5". So some of those
that was a good one.
Early targets. Yeah, some of those early targets were like, come on, man. And they never played before, so whatever, it's fine. But it just the defense didn't do a great job. The offense didn't do a great job of giving the defense time to rest. I mean, if an NFL team is an organism, all the parts are supposed to be working together, and they both affect each other. So I don't know. I'm fine with it at this point with changing over to Peterman. And I tweeted that earlier today. I just said I don't care. This is McDermott's team. It's his chess game. Let him arrange the pieces however he wants.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we'll decide. We as fans will decide at the end of the season. Is this, was it good? Was it bad? What did he do? What didn't he do right? And we're all going to have our hot takes.
I mean,
but you know what? When they are in a playoff spot, maybe now is the time to try and light a spark. Who knows? And yes, they're playing on the road, and they're going up against Melvin Gordon, Joey Bosa, and that Chargers defensive line. But I don't think the Chargers are going to have much of a home field advantage. So if you're going to do it now, then, or if you're going to do it while you're still in the midst of a playoffs hunt, do it now. Maybe he'll get a win, get some confidence going into a tough Kansas City game next week.
I mean, they're doing him no favors. I know looking ahead real quick before I put a bow on this one, but with New England, Kansas City coming up on the schedule, they're doing him no favors. But I certainly think that at this point in time, with the playoff race in mind, Tyrod Taylor gives you the best chance to get to the playoffs, just because you really don't know what you're going to get with Peterman under center. But on the other hand, if you've got 2 first-round picks with 5 potential quarterbacks who could go in the first round next year, and you still don't know if you have your quarterback of the future, I mean, this year, as much as it is to try to get the playoffs, it's about building for the future. It's all about trusting the process. That's the whole point from the word go. From the first day of training camp, it was always trust the process. And that's part of the process. You got to figure out, is Peterman worth a long-term look? Is he a guy who you might have a decent backup out of? But you don't know until you see. And at this point, is it going to work out? I can't say. But that's the beauty of the next couple months of football, is that they'll probably give Peterman every single shot to succeed. And if it doesn't work out, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane better have a damn plan, because it's going to blow up in their face real quick if they don't. Because, if they go from being, they've lost 2 in a row and they've looked really ugly in the process. But if they go from being 5-2 to missing the playoffs, it's happened before. But, this new regime came in and talked about changing the culture and, again, trusting the process. And if this process is the same as the old process, a lot of fans are going to be miserable real quick. And I know fans don't influence decisions like that, but if the complaining gets loud enough, it certainly. I like to think that something can help influence a decision like that, and you piss the fan base off, and the fan base turns on you, you're gonna have a bad time. So that's long down the road, but just kind of looking in the future real quick. But I do want to mention here because a football game did happen. Unfortunately, if you watched it or you were at the game, it was unfortunate for you. The Buffalo Bills just flat out didn't show up. 47-10 loss. Really, at this point, I mean, I don't want to delve too much into it because the game was horrendous, and just Loser Wednesday is very real today. That's for sure. The Buffalo Bills, like I said,
it's Victory Wednesday if you're a Peterman fan, I guess.
It's Victory Wednesday if you're a Peterman fan. That is correct, but it's Loser Wednesday otherwise. Buffalo really suffering from identity crisis, like I said. Really, at this point in time, 5-4 going into Week 10, you got to hit the reset button. You got to clear out the cash and the cookies, and just kind of go back to square one because Buffalo allowed 482 total yards last week, 298 of which rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. The defense held Drew Brees in check for 18 for 25, 184 yards and a touchdown. I mean, it's a testament to the Bills' pass defense, but then again, you have to think about it. And if Drew Brees wanted to pick that defense apart, he probably could have. But 6 rushing touchdowns does the job. Tyrod Taylor held to 56 yards and a pick on 9 of 18 passing. And friend of the podcast, Rob Quinn, at Rob Quinn 619 of the Bills Wire, tweets out this incredible stat to chew on. The Bills in the last 4 games have allowed 132 points, 1,627 yards, 103 first downs, and have only 2 sacks. So certainly that Bills defense could use Marcel Darius on Sunday, but I don't mean to beat a dead horse there, but, kind of is what it is. But not a good showing from the Buffalo Bills. And still, I mean, they've been getting help. That's the crazy part. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the Bills have been getting help, both directly and indirectly. And, they're still hanging around in the playoff race. And you've got a season opportunity. I mean, that's pretty much the case. You don't seize the opportunity, you're going to get passed by. And don't mean to be so cliche there, but you're looking what's the saying? You're looking a something square in the mouth, a gift horse in the mouth, or whatever. I don't know what the hell the saying is, but the Bills have a great opportunity, and if they squander it, it's just. I mean, there's always next year, but I'm not ready to say that yet.
No, not at all. I mean, if the season ended today, they'd be in the playoffs, and that's why
you're taking my saying. I copywrote that.
I'm just saying. It's you're absolutely right, and it's a great opportunity for Peterman. I mean, I look forward. He may be ultimately he's a better fit for this offensive scheme than Tyrod Taylor is. And let's not forget too, just a real quick. I don't know if shade is the right word here. Real quick shade throw or real quick stay woke comment. But let's not forget, Rick Dennison was not the first choice to be the offensive coordinator, at least as far as I remember, from all those source tweets back in January. They wanted Mike McCoy, if I recall. And
you're right.
Yeah, so just putting that out there. So, if you have an issue with Rick Dennison, listen, at least in terms of the coach's preferences, he was the best that was available, that they were able to get, and that's part of the NFL too. Everybody thinks that when an NFL head coach gets hired, he's able to assemble his dream team. That's not always the case. It's he has to hire anybody else who's been recently fired. Normally, it's how it works. Unless he's promoting some QB coach or something from another team to offensive coordinator, in which case you're getting, a rookie, I guess, typically at that position in the coaching staff. So just real quick, stay woke. Rick Dennison was not the first choice as far as we can tell as fans listening from the outside in. But he is the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback that will be starting on Sunday is probably a better fit for his scheme. And and I've been saying this to whomever since back in the preseason that Tyrod is a square peg that they're trying to put into a round hole, and they're not willing to change the shape of that hole for that peg. So, all right, here's the offense. Take or swim, buddy. And in some ways, you have to respect them from a leadership standpoint in terms of like, listen, this is the direction we're going, and our goal is we're here to change the culture. We're here to move the team in a specific direction, and we're not going to try and tailor, no pun intended, this offense to one specific player, even if that is the quote-unquote field general on the team. We're going to move in this direction. These are the parts that we have, and we'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And Tyrod Taylor was all things being equal, he was kind of making do with the offensive scheme that was in place. But when he's holding onto the ball so long, and it seemed like every other play, like it was a rollout. Did you pick up on that at all, Ryan? It seemed like, and also let's not forget the offensive line has not been so great, and this is in that same vein. They've been doing the zone blocking instead of the blocking scheme they've had the 2 years prior when they led the league in rushing yards. So there's that. But it seemed like so often he'd have to roll out to the right. It was almost like when you play somebody in Madden, they do the exact same thing every time. You know what I'm talking about? So
that's rude to call me out like that.
But it is though. It seems like, oh, all right, he always does this because that's how he's comfortable. So I don't know, whatever.
That's pretty much me with 4 verticals every time.
Yeah, 4 vertical, yep. Or my brother would always.
How do I score 75 points and throw for 700 yards a game? 4 verticals all the time.
4 verticals. My brother, when we used to play Madden in the early 90s, would always he had the fake punt offense, and he could always execute like these long passes on fake punts. It was so annoying. And like he'd do it on first down, and I'd get so mad. Like, that's not realistic. He's like, it's not real. It's a video game. Trying to.
That's why I play all my video games on easy now.
Yeah.
If I want to be challenged, if I want to be challenged in real life, I'll go do something I've never done before.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy mode, and then I always fast forward when I'm on defense because playing defense on Madden is so fun.
Yep, exactly. We're the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out though, because you did mention this earlier, and it kind of doesn't really make sense now to talk about it because I was going to kind of point to Tyrod Taylor being forced to be a quarterback related to LaShawn McCoy being taken away from him. When LaShawn McCoy's been good, Tyrod Taylor's been good. And naturally, that's the case. But the one thing I do want to point out that you mentioned is that Cameron Jordan was the guy who said, you got to force him to be a quarterback. And it's not the first time we've heard that. We've heard that a few times. Usually when Tyrod Taylor has a really terrible game, guys come out and say, we made him be a quarterback, and he can't do that. He's got a lot of talent, don't get me wrong, but it was very obvious on Sunday the goal was to crash the pocket and make him throw the ball quick because he can't do that. And that's always been a thing on Tyrod Taylor. He can make things happen, but when he has to make them happen super quick, it doesn't work out very well. The quote from Cameron Jordan was, quote, I knew that Tyrod Taylor would try and scramble, and we pretty much eliminated that except when we got a little hungry on some sacks, spun out and did exactly what we knew he was going to do. We kept him in the pocket and made him a quarterback. And that's a good enough reason. I mean, at this point, I love watching Tyrod Taylor play. It's a treat. I mean, he's got, I believe, the lowest interception percentage for like a minimum of 1,000 passes in the history of the league. Like he's very good with the ball. Has a winning record. It may only be a couple games above 500, but it's still a winning record. I'm just like I said, a big fan of watching him play. And it's going to be different to see Peterman under center. But you know what? At the end of the day, I got to be completely honest. I mean, it sucks if the Bills lose. It's awesome if they win, but my life still goes on. So, while it's nice to get upset about sports, I'm going to stay level-headed because Nathan Peterman may not start a game ever again, and Tyrod Taylor most likely won't be in Buffalo next year. So why get upset when we've, I feel like it's Trent Edwards all over again, or Brian Brom, or whichever other name you can come up with out of the myriad of random quarterback generators for the past 20 years. It's the same thing every time until they find the guy. So, kudos to them for recognizing, we got to take a shot on another guy. I think it's terrible the way they went about it. But you know what? This is why I'm not in the sports business, because I just would be like, hey, I would just be terrible. I last time I played Madden, I think my cap hit my second season was like $275 million. I don't know how to do any of this. I suck at this. I trade players who have like 8 years left on their contract, and then I have like a $95 million dead cap hit. So I have no idea what I'm doing. I just watch the games, and you know what? If this works out, great. If it doesn't, if it works out, you're a genius. If it doesn't work out, show me why you did this. And if it's going out and getting Sam Darnold or Josh Allen or whoever it may be next year, maybe you had a point. But right now, still trying to find the answers.
Yeah, like I said before, it's his team. He can do what he wants with it. He's the one who's accountable to ownership for it. But ultimately, I guess what it boils down to is, hey, they just lost 2 games by a lot of points. Let's do something different. As a fan, I'm like, all right, fine, I'm cool. Let's see it. And it does suck. You know what I mean? You feel bad for somebody like Tyrod in this situation. But listen, I mean, this is pro sports. This is what you sign up for. And he said that in his press conference. Yeah, and he said in his his press conference today, like, it doesn't matter if I think it's fair. Life isn't fair. And he's right. Life isn't fair. And if you're constantly looking at how things shake out and getting upset because they're not what you perceive to be fair, even as a fan on the outside looking in, you're setting yourself up for disappointment the rest of your life. So life isn't fair. And I don't know. That's a little speech there, but you just have to accept it and move on, and who knows, maybe who knows what'll happen. Maybe, Peterman's going to come in and light it up. We don't know. I mean, he, like I said, he is a good fit for this offense in terms of, how, his experience. Now, he's about to play an NFL game, start an NFL game against an NFL defense. So we're going to see how that shakes out. But, for who he is, his type of quarterback, how he's played, like, he's a good fit. Why not? Show me. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to lose by 37 points again? Okay. I've been there already this year. Like, you're not going to show me something new. That's fine.
Exactly, yeah. So at this point,
at the rate, though, we're talking about the playoffs real quick. We're talking about the playoffs, and, listen, if they keep playing like they did the past 2 weeks, they're not going to the playoffs. They need to do something different. So, like I said, they can't bench the whole defense, and I'm going to shut up now because now I'm talking in circles, and nobody wants to listen to that.
Hey, you're okay. It's a podcast. That's why it's our podcast. We do what we want. But speaking of doing what we want, let's talk about some happier things, shall we? Let's talk about the playoffs. Let's talk about next week's game. Real quick, first place New England, 7-2. They're walking away with it slowly but surely, as we always predicted, whatever you want to say. They're walking away with it ever so fast. Ever so quickly, I should say. First place 7-2. Buffalo still second, 5-4. Miami's in third at 4-5, and fourth are the Jets at 4-6. If the season ended today, which I know it doesn't, so again, don't send your hate to me on Twitter. But if it ended today, the 6-seed Bills would take on the 3-seed Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City on Wild Card Weekend. Because if a season doesn't have one Kansas City Chiefs game, the only thing that would make it better would be 2 Kansas City Chiefs games. And then the games are the worst. And then a real quick update. Buffalo has a 1-game lead on the 7th, 8th, and 9th seeds, being Baltimore, Oakland, and Miami, respectively, and a 2-game lead on the 10th seed Jets. So again, Buffalo's getting help. They're working their way towards the playoffs. It's week 10. They're still in a playoff spot. Who would have thunk it? I think that's even crazier. If you had told me, okay, which one's more believable? Buffalo has a playoff spot heading into week 10, or Nathan Peterman starts a game on week 10. I would probably believe Peterman starting a game over Buffalo being in the playoff hunt, but that's just me. Perspective is crazy when you think about it, huh?
Yeah. You're the guy predicting 4 wins, so whatever. Like you said, house money right now. So
hey, that's right. I'm not mad about it. But hey, I want to ask you now, Dell. Before we move on to the game preview, 26 shirts. Got some new shirts. I got a new 26 shirt in the mail today. It's super dope. I'm real thrilled with it. Buy a 26 t-shirt now. What's going on? Tell us the latest.
Well, we are finishing up this week, our second week, our final week of the NES Thurman design, which looks like an old Nintendo Entertainment System box. It's a very popular t-shirt meme. If you head over to 26shirts.com, you'll see it now and you'll recognize, oh yeah, that's what he means. So that's going pretty well. We're selling that to benefit 3-year-old Jace Coker, a little boy with an undiagnosed issue. Lots of symptoms though. It's pretty sad. Go over there, take a look at it, read about it. That's why we exist, to sell shirts to help people. We are launching tomorrow. Technically, it's up there now on the front page of the website. The Ugly Buffalo Comeback, which was an ugly sweater T-shirt we did a couple years ago, and we brought that back again, along with our Fa La 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 Fontaine ugly sweater as well. So those are going to be available through Sunday. Those also benefit Jace. And if you're a sadistic type that just loves, Buffalo sports and embraces the pain, well, by popular demand, we have once again brought back the Fine design, which is the little blue buffalo in the house on fire, saying our teams are fine. So we're just selling off some leftover stock we have. So the sizing is limited. We do have the mugs, which people love and everything. So head over there and check it out. We're selling all that to benefit Jace. We really want to help the Coker family as best we can. And we've got some other stuff on deck, but I'm not going to talk about that till next week. But so head over to 26shirts.com, check it out, and also head over and take a look at our new Fantastic product line. If you're ever a fan of Breaking Bad or Walter White, we've got a fun parody over there. That's our other line that we've just launched recently that has nothing to do with sports. So if you're like, yo, I am so sick of sports right now, that's kind of ironic because you're listening to Trust the Podcast. But if you're there, over there, maybe we got a shirt there that you'll like as well.
I just realized too, because I was looking at 26 shirts to check out the shirts that were available right now, and 26 shirts has 69 Google reviews.
Do we? Is this good?
That is very nice.
So they're positive reviews.
You actually have 5 stars.
Yeah,
5 stars,
right.
69. Not only 69.
I totally missed the opportunity there.
Dell, let's try it again. Okay, and cut. Okay, scene. Okay, action. Dell, I was just checking out 26shirts.com on the Google bots, and I'll tell you what, the craziest thing happened. You guys have 5 stars for all your reviews, but guess what?
How many reviews?
You guys have 69 reviews.
Nice.
Very nice. Very nice. Benny, let's talk about
Sorry about that.
Let's talk about football now. We're broken. It's a Twitter. Twitter's ruined us. Week 10, Buffalo in Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. And look, you know what the most impressive thing about this entire podcast has been so far, Dell? Excuse me.
Hit me.
We have yet to call them the San Diego Chargers.
Oh, I still do in my heart every time I think of them.
I thought it for sure would have happened at least 5 times by now. But anyways, the Los Angeles Chargers, 3-6. They've lost 2 straight. Old friend Anthony Lynn, the head coach of the Chargers, if you have forgotten. Phil Rivers was in concussion protocol, but I was going to mention yesterday when we were going to do the podcast, but I had a math test to take, which I think it went pretty well. Good vibes to me in the math world, I hope. Phil Rivers, since becoming the full-time starter of the Chargers in 2006, has yet to miss a game. That's 185 straight starts, 4th best all time. Me thinks Phil Rivers is going to be under center on Sunday. They've still got Melvin Gordon. He's real good at football. 553 rushing yards this season, 3.8 yards per attempt, 4 rushing touchdowns, to combine with 35 receptions for 250 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. He's a very nice fantasy asset if you have a PPR or non-PPR league. And then defensively, you mentioned it before, Dell, but Melvin Ingram, very good.
Did I call him Melvin Gordon earlier?
I think you called him Melvin Ingram. I think you did it right.
I did. I said the right name. Okay.
Excuse me. He has 8.5 sacks this year, but very streaky, only 1 sack in his last 4 games. The guy to worry about, Nathan Peterman is going to have nightmares of this guy. Joey Bosa, or I refer to him as the real. 9.5 sacks this year in 21 career National Football League games, 20 sacks. Damn good football player. So, Dell, what do you think the key to the victory for the Buffalo Bills is on Sunday?
I think the key to victory is score more points. No, seriously. They're going to need to protect Nathan Peterman, and they're going to need to get that running game going. And I think if they do that, they're going to have a good shot. But they got to do their best to not allow 250-plus yards on the ground. I think that would be good. That's just me. Maybe talking out of turn as, a fan who doesn't know anything about football, but maybe try to stop the run game. That's just my thought. And Phillip Rivers is probably going to play. And man, did I want them to draft him back in 2004. Oh, I bought into all the hype. I've been listening to Jeremy White for a long time, and he was early on. He was on the Rivers hype train, and him and Brad Ryder used to.
Sorry, didn't Phil Rivers play with like a torn ACL at one point? I
don't know. He's like one of my favorite non.
He's played through everything, and he has like 17 children.
Hasn't figured out what causes it yet, but no idea. I have no idea how to keep getting pregnant, honey. I don't know. No, but he seems like
that's for the Trust the Podcast After Dark.
Yeah. Well, we're recording right now. It's 9:52, but maybe it's a post 10 p.m. thing.
It's the whole rate you can curse on TV before like 10 or after 10 o'clock. We haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah. No, but I think that they're going to need to give Peterman time to throw. We don't need him getting sacked for 12 yards on the first play like a couple weeks ago with the Jets. I'm excited to see what happens, but that's going to be the key. Protect Peterman, get that run game going, and stop the run.
I think for me, the big one is obviously don't allow 6 rushing touchdowns, but being logical here, because obviously I don't think they're going to allow 6 more rushing touchdowns this weekend, but I've been surprised. I think getting LaShawn McCoy going will take pressure off the defense. It will take pressure off of Peterman. It'll take pressure off of everybody, top to bottom, left to right. I know LaShawn has struggled on and off again, being able to get started because he just can't find anywhere to run. And then, like last weekend, they had to abandon the run because they were down by like 150 points. You can't run the ball when you have to score touchdowns.
The 5-yard dumps really help.
Yeah. So definitely get LaShawn McCoy going, and then tell me how the Buffalo Bills do. So we will be here next week again on Tuesday, I believe. I don't have any tests coming up, so and I appreciate you, Del, for being able to push the podcast back for that. But I'm almost done with the semester. I have a couple more weeks left. Hopefully, I'll be passing math and Spanish, and I can move closer to getting my associate's degree, which I just never finished college. I gave up on it because I do things like this, and this is what I want to do with my life. But to get paid, you actually have to go to school or something.
As long as you get there, doesn't really matter how fast. Only took me 12 years to get my 4-year degree. So
hey, that. You could be like Van Wilder, man.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as exciting. My 12 years. 12 years out or passage.
Hey, my college partying days are well past me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they typically pass everybody pretty quickly because you can't sustain.
They passed me when I was about 20. I was about 20. It took me 2 years, and I was like, dude, I can't keep up, man. But
I tapped out at 19.
Jeez, I don't blame you though. I don't blame you.
Whole other segue.
Yeah, exactly. That's another one of those. You meet us in person, we'll talk about it. But hey, crazy stuff's been happening in the Bills world. We keep trusting the process. You keep trusting the podcast. And Dal, please take it away.
Before I say my traditional Go Bills at the end of every podcast. I just want to take a moment just thank everybody for listening. Ryan and I, we really enjoy doing this, and it's a good opportunity for us to kind of, take a step back and look at the game and that just happened and the game that's coming up. And so it's a fun exercise for us. But if you're listening along and everything, just thanks for listening, and we appreciate you. I appreciate you, and go Bills.
Like Dell said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. At Wolf BLTD, I missed this part. At Wolf BLTD, at Dell Reed, at 26 Shirts, at BLTD Sports. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. I know we try to keep it as level headed as possible. Try to keep it 100 here, but like I said, I don't know if I can quote myself in the third person like that, but trust the podcast. Go Bills. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you.
Bye.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.